Okay.
No, I was trying to join from my phone and it wouldn't let me, so I was trying to get home and.
So at this point, we were just talking about what our guiding question was and thinking about what the end in mind and what sort of, projects we would create or we would have the students work towards creating in order to answer this question.
Cool.
So, and Casey had said something about how about that? Casey had said something about a garden, because thinking about the question around, well, you go ahead and articulate it again, Casey, if you don't mind.
Because I think, just around the question, let me go back to the other sheet. That's part of the expanded thinking, what systems of interdependence exist within communities. And it says food systems, health and wellness, educational systems, economic systems, and natural environment. And I, from the beginning, have been drawn to this food systems with building a garden. And so I just kind of mentioned that. And I think we had talked, I had mentioned it before, I think when we had a small breakout group, I think you were part of it, Marcia. But anyway, and then I just kind of threw the idea out there. And do you go by Drew or do you go by Andrew?
Drew.
Just Drew. Okay.
Yeah.
So it's okay if we just call you Drew.
Absolutely.
Okay. So then Drew was thinking, well, that would be, a finished product would be, he thought about a blueprint that the kids, somebody could go pitch to their town about, maybe having a community garden or something. But so, and Claudia was talking about how a lot of kids don't know about agriculture, and they don't know, they just think fruits and vegetables come in a box from Amazon. They have no idea what goes into it. So
it's pretty cool.
I think I jumped on everybody.
It's kind of funny. The last 4 years, I've taught an agricultural science class at Levitt. So it's pretty cool. I'm with this weird blend of art teacher / sciencey stuff. But I formed a really close partnership with Maine Ag in the classroom. And so the woman's name who runs that, it's Willie Sawyer Grenier. And she would do anything that we asked of her. There's all sorts of resources, community resources. There's tons of stuff through them. And depending on where we want to go with any of this, there's even summer institutes for teachers that are totally paid.
Wow.
It's pretty cool. I did one in Machias, and they brought us out on fishing boats, and I've never been on this conference where they bring you out to dinner every night and tour the state. It was really cool.
That is so cool.
So you guys were thinking blueprints, a community garden?
Yeah, I envision it sort of organizing it almost like a sales pitch to town selectmen. We're going to try to, get some community garden up and started.
Yep.
But that's what the students would be doing. Not necessarily that they would go out and get their hands dirty actually creating the garden. But within the module, they could certainly, because I think that certainly would tie in collaboration, communication, math skills, any number of things.
Yeah.
And at the same time, simultaneously, it goes with health, because if they are growing a garden, then they are growing their own vegetables and fruits. They're gonna eat that. So they're, at the same time, we are teaching them healthy choices.
Yep.
So that goes along with that.
Yeah, and there's a whole bunch within plant sciences that is fascinating. Everything from orchard sciences and all of that stuff. It's really interesting.
So I am just writing some notes here.
There's also, just kind of like throwing out random ideas, there's this tree program where they sell trees of like that happened around famous places around the United States. I know it sounds really strange, but like they have Lincoln's Gettysburg Address trees where it's like offshoots of this tree that they market. I know that we did something like that at our high school, and I'll just think about it because it was like kind of an interesting idea too, where they do some different stuff.
So you could transplant that tree. To be clear, you could transplant that tree to your backyard and say this came from a tree that was actually growing nearby where Lincoln delivered the Gettysburg Address, something like that.
Yeah, they do these historic trees where they're seedlings from trees, and it's like genealogy wise, like you can go back and trace these trees to different important things that happened throughout history.
Oh, that's cool.
Because I know at our high school we planted one, so that's why I'm trying to remember where it came from. Yeah, no, this is cool. I can kind of pull together some resources too. I just have to think on it. I've been crazy trying to get here.
Lewiston used to have something like that. I don't know if they still have it. It was a project, community project for immigrants, and they have some fields in Lisbon and in the city of Lewiston too.
Yep.
But I'm not sure how. And then they will go and sell it at Kennedy Park. I'm not sure if they used to do that, but I heard good things about it.
Well, and there's also learning about all different ways that things are farmed. We did some stuff too, because like the hydroponic growing and gardening is really fascinating, and how they figured out ways to grow soilless. Because there's another place in Lisbon that does that too, like a huge lettuce place, and then there's like the tomato farms in Madison that, I mean, all of Hannaford's are supplied from that one. I'm just trying to look up the name. I think it's called Freedom Farms or something, but Lisbon.
Freedom.
If I find it, I'll post it. Okay. It's called New Roots Cooperative Farm.
Oh.
Oh, that's Lewiston.
All right, guys. I have to fight with my children for internet.
Now, where are you guys located anyway?
Like, where do we teach, or where do we live?
Yeah, like where do you teach, and or like what communities, where do you live?
I taught in Lewiston for 10 years. And that's how I knew about the gardens and all that, because my students will come and tell me.
Yep.
And I moved to Lisbon 3 years ago. So now I teach in Lisbon, and I'm teaching at the middle school and the high school. So I have both schools. And I like Lisbon. It's not as big. It's not as, it's a smaller district.
Yeah.
You are in Levitt, you said, Marsha?
Yep. Yeah, I'm at Levitt and Turner.
So, and I teach at Biddeford High School, and I live in South Portland. So it's roughly, well, it tells me on maps every morning. It takes me 27 minutes to get to work.
I'm moving from Litchfield, from the Tacoma Lakes area to Winthrop, and from Litchfield, it will take me 25 minutes. And now from here, it's gonna take me 31. So when we looked at this house, it's like, oh, 6 minutes, no. It's a deal breaker. I don't want any more commuting time, no more.
I'm 12 minutes away unless I have to do daycare, and then I'm 35.
Oh, wow. That must be nice.
Well, except every day I have to go to daycare, so.
That's what my wife did today. We lived in Biddeford, and with the Saco, so 8 minutes. But for her, she had to take our infant at the time to my in-laws, so she had to go from Biddeford to Cape Elizabeth to South Portland, and then repeat that every day. And she was in the car every morning and afternoon. She was in the car for over an hour, because in Cape Elizabeth, of course, if you know the area is kind of off the beaten path, so you have to kind of wind your way to get to where my in-laws lived in Cape. So yeah, it took 45 minutes just to go from Biddeford to Cape, and then 15 minutes from Cape to South Portland, where she worked.
Okay.
That's crazy.
This one is
Cure that.
17. Yeah. But I remember those days, daycare and getting up in the morning, the car seats, and yeah, I remember those days. But I don't miss them. I don't know, my teenager now, they're no teenagers. Yeah, he's a
They do a lot. That's a blessing.
What'd you say?
About teenagers, I said they do a lot of sleeping, so that's a blessing.
That's a blessing, yes. And they go with friends, so that's a blessing too.
So one of the things I
Oh,
was wondering about that I guess we could converse about while we're here is, and this got brought up earlier before you had arrived, Marcia, about how many modules we envision this group creating between now and late July, and whether we want to think about modules that we're working in small group, or will all our modules be a collaborative effort between the 5 of us, or will we be creating modules independently? I honestly don't know where we're heading with this. I'm just,
Well,
and out there is a
I guess,
starter.
well, I guess they haven't really told us what's supposed to be in a module. And so I think that they want us just to go with it. It sounds, they gave us rudimentary, it needs to have A, B, and C, but that's about it.
Right.
I mean, I know that I foresee if each of us had a separate part of one big module, I could see it kind of working with that whole idea of gardening and garden themes and stuff. I mean, I have a really good relationship with a lot of the farmers in kind of this community. Be really cool if we could show how different people made a living off the land and have that be part of it. Like if we could go and check out, what was it, the New Beginnings farm. There's some family farms that I know really well. I know they let me videotape them. I could even we could highlight different people's stories and how their stories are connected to the land. And that'd be pretty cool.
That would be cool.
And I'll just think out loud from sort of the history, social studies component, that it would be interesting to make part of this module sort of an exploration as to how, within the history of agriculture in Maine, how it diminished over time and how it is making a comeback based on this sort of small farm movement that's been afoot for the past 20 years or so. Where before, I think many of the agriculture in Maine seemed to diminish because larger farms in the Midwest were producing a great deal of the produce that were ending up on shelves in New England. And now, of course, buying local and growing local is the theme these days, and cutting down on the amount of fossil fuels being burned to transport that food. So I think that whole, like, seeing that, being able to explore that shift would be an interesting component to this module.
And another resource for you guys too that's kind of cool. It's called Journey 2050, I think. Which, let me just look it up and I'll post the link. But it talks about as the population.
Is that what, Marcia?
It's called Journey 2050.
Okay.
And it has some really neat things where it talks about what does it mean to be sustainable. And it's all full of agricultural resources, talking about different topics and farms and things like that. Here, I'll post it in the chat. But I've used that before because it talks about sustainability and farming and different really neat stuff.
I live in Madison. Like, I live a little ways from it's probably like a 5-minute drive to that tomato plant. And I work at the Maine Academy of Natural Sciences. And we live in Madison. Yeah. Sorry. And like, I work at the Maine Academy of Natural Sciences, and we have greenhouses, and they have like, I don't know like too much about it because like this was my first year there, and obviously we've only had half the year. So, but they have like one greenhouse that has like the aquaponics. It has like the fish that like produce whatever to like fertilize the like plants and stuff. And I don't know a ton about it, but it would be, I don't know, it's kind of an interesting piece. But like I see like doing like the whole agricultural, there's like the social studies piece, there's like you said, like farmers, like there's different pieces that we could, have videos of actual people, and then there's a component of, they could create their own, and they could create a piece for the community, and there's so many layers to it. Like, I think it would be a really, really neat.
That's true. Yeah. What about educational systems? As I read the bullets here that we have food systems, health and wellness, educational systems, economic systems, natural environment.
I mean, would we want to stick with one piece, or would we want to, I guess I'm not really sure.
I'm not sure if we are supposed to address all of those or do one at a time, do one a day.
So how much time are we supposed to, like, for our individual modules, lessons? I'm not sure exactly what the jargon is, but like, how much time are we supposed to engage students with the module?
I thought they had said that this should cover 1 quarter. Does anybody remember that?
Yeah, I think they said,
Okay.
I remember her saying like they're hoping to, cover a quarter. Like like all of the stuff that I think everybody's making, we're shooting for 1 quarter of it. Like 1 quarter of the year. And they said, like, she said something about like, one module could be 6 to 8 weeks. One could be 2 days. One could be, it's whatever we decide, I guess. So, which is very vague.
And I don't know at what point we're gonna be meeting with our content area, with our content people. I imagine it's gonna be hard for me to be creating modules, with all of us. And it's not because it's just like we have different units and stuff.
So I was just sort of doodling, and this kind of builds up what Claudia was saying. What if we focused on the whole idea of building a sustainable, like when you're talking about communities, the three aspects of sustainable communities are like economic, social, and environmental concerns. Because I teach fiber arts too, and I would love to pull in like where our fibers come from and where like where our fiber farms and sheep and farming along those lines, what you can do with fiber arts kind of stuff as an art component, just to kind of pull in multiple subject areas. Because I mean, we can even do stuff just out of cloth pieces to make really easy stuff. But I'm wondering if we kind of looked at it through this idea, this lens of sustainability, and we kind of all branched off to those three, because like there's a really cool video in Journey 2050 that I show my kids, and it talks about sustainability barrels and how we're only as strong as our weakest link and that type of stuff. And it's kind of like a cool message that we address everything.
And I think, you know, Marsha, you're talking about sheep. A little while ago, no one was buying chickens. And all of a sudden, everybody has chickens. So it's good, you know, it's good that now we're learning that, you know, we're kind of going back to the same old times, which is very good, I think, because at some point, if we can go back to those times, it will be great. You know, that way we avoid processed foods, we avoid all the not, you know, so much healthy eating habits. We promote exercise, we promote healthy eating, you know, it's using the sheep, using the chickens, using, you know, all those, how can I say, all those basic, essential living animals, you know, that somehow, you know, they give us something, so something that we eat. When I teach food in my units, I talk to my students about how hard life is in Spanish-speaking countries and how expensive food can be sometimes for people. And I explain to them that in Spanish-speaking countries, they're not picky about eating an apple when it has one brown spot. If it has a brown spot, they will eat it, and it's okay. It's not a big deal. And if the banana has black on it, little black points or spots on it, it's okay. It's not a big deal. We'll eat the banana. And also in Spanish-speaking countries, people will eat most of the animal, including sometimes the blood of the cow, the intestines of the cow, you know, some things that are not eaten here in the USA because it's considered not eatable. And in Spanish-speaking countries, because sometimes poverty can be very extreme, they will eat that. They will eat it. They will be buying it and cook it, and they will go and cook it at home because it's cheap. So the animal gets eaten to 90%, 95%, but it's because sometimes food is not, you know, is not as accessible as here in America. So I teach that, you know, and I teach about the eggs and the sheep and all that. So I find it very interesting, Marsha, that you also teach that to kids.
You know, there was a component in the directions that we received during our, you know, the workshopping last week, that being able to tie in or address the multicultural components of the students we have here in Maine. And I think that what you were just saying, Claudia, would certainly tie in with that, as students would be able to identify who would come from other countries, what their foodways are, and what their perception of what is edible. That would be a great piece to that. That it would definitely tie in, you know, and cover one of the boxes we need to check as we create these modules.
Right. Like here, I know for a fact that in Hartford, the stories are not perfect. They're not taken because people will not buy So the strawberry is not nice and bright red. The appearance of the fruit is very important. I should say it like that. You know, the appearance, the way the fruit looks is what people want. If the strawberry is not bright red and you know it's nice and solid and all that, then I will buy the strawberries. But if it has one little tiny thing in it, then I'm not buying that. The whole box of the strawberries, I'm not buying that box. So I think, you know, what you said, you put it out, the way you say it, like, what do you say? Like, not to go to waste, to minimize waste, or what do you say, Drew? You say something about that, and I don't remember your exact words, but it was very well said.
About how the approach of other cultures around food.
Yes.
I'm
So I'll write those notes here. The approach. Cultures.
and I guess just how they view what is usable and what is not.
Yes, about food. And what is.
Well, I think if you're talking about culture, the culture of food is just engaging and interesting. And there's so many different facets and so many different places that you could take that to.
Yeah.
Whether it be how people garden or, so I mean, that could honestly be almost like our module is food culture. And we could talk about, or I guess it would be more than food if I was trying to do something art related, but something around those lines.
Marsha, I'm wondering if you said that you were doodling. Did you is there a sketch note that you could hold up to kind of show us your thinking if you don't mind me asking?
Honestly, I make doodles, and which you can't see. I like doodle all over pages and arrows. Like while I'm talking, while people are talking, I have to do that, or else I can't pay attention.
I'm just finishing up reading a professional book called Ink and Ideas that's all about sketchnoting and getting kids to, put their ideas on paper without necessarily having to write, but just draw. And however that, because it can be done in a linear fashion, it can be done in circular fashion, it can be done by posting things all over the paper, however they happen to think. But again, it's, the whole idea was around reinforcing their learning. So when you said that you were doodling, I immediately was like, oh, let's, curious to see what it looks like to kind of see where your thinking was going on paper.
Honestly, it's like usually lots of stars, boxes, arrows. It's like mind maps. It's like I have like pages from our meetings that I doodle on.
It's relaxing too, I bet. Is it relaxing?
Well, if not, I start staring out windows and like not paying attention. So this has kind of always been my focusing is I always need to be multitasking. So doodling keeps me focused.
It's probably a helpful.
I probably have ADD.
It's okay because I have OCD, so it's.
So I'm just wondering, like, because it sounds like a lot of us, we need some time to really process. We have this idea that we want to go towards gardening and food and agriculture and head in that direction. But I know that I could use some more time to think before, like, what would be the best way? So would it, like a Google Classroom be a good way to communicate, or a Google Drive and just put everything in folders? What would be usable for people?
Do you have the document? I don't know if this document will be helpful, Marsha. You need like to put all the ideas there, like a lot of ideas.
Well, I guess I was just wondering if, like I said, I could use a little more time to think about exactly what I'm thinking.
Created a
And
whole,
so I didn't know if others are in the same boat.
I agree, because I was thinking about, you know, to try to honor the time, to have us not go over an hour. We have about 9 minutes left. If we think about next steps and what, you know, maybe if you don't mind, Claudia, putting it on the document, like where we would hope to go, because I'll just think out loud now that like my next steps would be around thinking about that history of agriculture in Maine and how the sort of bell curve it took between well, sort of a reverse bell curve of having a high amount of agriculture that ended up dipping down and then, you know, going back up with the, you know, the sort of like, you know, farm to table movements of the past 10 to 15 years. I would like to be, you know, researching that and thinking like how I can tie that into this particular module. Other people just want to share out. And I think, well, we're going to meet again on Wednesday, right, with Morgan? I mean, that's kind of a short turnover, but I mean, between now and like if we decide that we're going to have another Zoom meeting next week, that would certainly be something I'd like to at least find, at the very least, find some sites.
Well, I think I'd like to go in the direction of what, kind of like an overview of what it means to be sustainable in a community, especially where it relates to agriculture. And I'd also like to investigate like some of the social, by social, more of like how we can make things and how we can be connected, because that's kind of my area. Like I want to make sure that there's something art related in our unit, and I want to find a way to connect to some of that. And
or how as teachers, or how we as the community.
sorry, I'm losing you.
I like I think like that too, Marcia. Like I like I'm trying to like put my thoughts together. So like sustainability of food in communities or in your local community. I like I'm trying to like I'm thinking of our question, and I'm like, okay, well, how can people learn to adapt thinking and improve communities? But like, I don't know if like where we're going really fits our question. Do you know what I'm saying? So I'm sure we could change our question a smidge. But I like where we're going, like where we're talking about like being self-sufficient, and then like people gardening, and like you were talking about the history, like that would be something you'd want to develop. And Claudia was talking about like culture and waste and stuff, and Marcia wants to tie the art piece, like how you produce, like use stuff and produce art. And I think it's really cool, like that we're all like centered around like kind of food, but we're each going our own like route with it.
Well, I wonder if we all kind of take our own piece, because it sounds like you were interested in really almost how things grow, like the actual garden, like how do we produce food, how do we make things grow, how do we do community-based projects, that type of stuff. It'd be kind of cool if we ran with our own separate areas and then kind of came back, you know, not to do tons of work around it, but maybe see what we have and where our thinking goes, and then try to come back together and make it all fit. Because I feel like it all can. It's just a matter of tweaking things. My son's right in my eye.
I'm wondering too if that document that Claudia has been typing on, that Team 3 document, as we find resources between now and next week, if we just you know, put links on there. Because the other thing I'll do is, because I'm recording this meeting, once I get this loaded up onto YouTube, I will add the link to that document, and I'll send an email to let them know where you can find it. So I think I like where this is headed. I don't know how other people are feeling, but I'm feeling excited about what just happened in this past hour.
Yeah, I think so. I have I have that vision, and I think like you're feeling the same way. It's like now it's just getting it here to here, and what pieces we're gonna need. But yeah, I think it could be really cool, and I see it like. Do you guys know what platform? Is it gonna be like Google Docs, Google Slides, Google? You know, like how this is all gonna like come together?
No, I think that. Oh, go ahead.
No, you go.
I think that's as Morgan had said, that's TBD as well. Just depending on where where we decide to go with it.
Yeah, because like I see us like getting all this like information, but where are we gonna put it? Like,
Right.
I'm just not. I'm trying to wrap my head around it, but it's hard because there's nothing there to wrap my head around.
You mean to do the units or to upload them on the document? That's what you mean, right? Your unit.
Yeah. What
Yeah.
the module, what format the module will be produced in, and whether it's something that's universal because there are teams all over the place. Where is Maine DOE gonna, is there going to be some sort of repository where all of this goes? And I don't know, to me, it seems like there should be some sort of universal formatting that would occur so that students would be able to gain access to it.
Yeah, I'm not really. But yeah, I think that's a good start for us. We could each kind of like run with our piece and like see what we can find for links or whatever, like however we want to set that up, and I guess until next time.
And well, I'm wondering too, just because thinking of the end, I'm wondering if each of us, and I know my eyes look funny in the, I feel like I have a mask on. If each of us has sort of like an end product that we hope for, because I'm thinking from the art piece, like kids could actually make something. And I'm wondering with Claudia's piece, if we could even get like to experiment with different cultures cooking, like to have kids really attempt some recipes that might be a little bit out of their comfort zone. Or like you were talking about, Casey, a community garden, like if they planned, like what are the steps of doing something publicly, or even if it's their own garden, like how would they design something? And Andrew, you were talking about history. I'm wondering if it's like a piece of writing that kids do or something else. I don't quite know that realm, but I wonder if we kind of think about what is the final product for each of our pieces that we're going for.
Yeah.
I wonder if that would kind of all work together where we each have these separate products that.
Right. It's almost like it'd be like mini modules that would be put together ultimately into a portfolio of items that the student would have produced to say they did everything that was supposed to get done. They produced everything that was supposed to be produced to complete this module.
Yep.
I like that.
All right. So till we meet again, we'll see each other on Wednesday with Morgan. But until then, for the next week, we will be searching out resources and putting them in the Team 3 doc as we go along.
Sounds great.
No meeting tomorrow?
What's that?
Meeting tomorrow?
I don't think so. I think we're meeting with Morgan on Wednesday. Wednesday at 10.
So yeah, that's fine. I just didn't want to miss it if there was something. Okay.
Yeah.
That's fine. All right, guys. Well, thank you. Anything that we, learn and research and anything that you think will be helpful, I will, let's put it on the document. That way we all have it and we all share.
Yep. Sounds good.
Sounds good.
Night.
Thank you. Have a good
guys.
night.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye.